Welcome to Unplanned and Untold, a podcast that dives into the real life, unexpected twists of facing an unplanned pregnancy in college. Join us as we listen to the unplanned and untold stories of those who have overcome the odds in order to achieve their goals. Welcome back to another episode of Unplanned and Untold. I'm your host, Caitlin Willing, and on today's podcast, I'll be interviewing a woman who exemplifies the true meaning of selfless love. We'll be diving into the challenges that Kelsey faced during her unplanned pregnancy in college, along with taking a deeper look at the profound impact of placing her child for adoption. Throughout this episode, we'll uncover themes of courage, resiliency, and the incredible power of sacrificial love. Without further ado, Kelsey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on and to see your face. I mean, our listeners don't know this, but we go way back. Like, I was actually at the same clinic that she was at 10 years ago when she found out she was pregnant for the first time. Is that not mind-blowing to you?
It's pretty cool, I would say.
I mean, our lives have changed so much over the past 10 years. Like, you're married with children now, and I'm out here in Arizona in the desert. And life just has a tendency of moving on. It really does.
Yes, it really does.
So take me back to when you were in college. Let's start your story there. I know you went to a junior college at first, but walk me through that phase of your life.
Yeah, so I went to a 2-year junior college. I played volleyball for them. It was really close to home, which I loved. But, junior college, you always have to either just stop at your associates or transfer.
Right.
So I decided to go to Auburn University. I had a lot of friends there and I'd been there several times. And if you ever go to Auburn, like you just get it. There's something about it. It's so special.
It's so hard to explain to people. Honestly, it's like you're really not going to get it till you've been there and you've experienced just how amazing this tiny little, I mean, it's not even tiny anymore, but this small little quaint town is.
Yeah, it truly is. It's a home away from home. I loved it so much. Um, and so my dad was battling pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
So I wanted to be somewhere that I could easily, quickly come home and spend time with my parents on the weekends and stuff. So it was just the best of both worlds that I got a little bit of freedom, but also it was within driving range of going home.
Wow.
So it was a good fit for me, that I really enjoyed making it, my new foundation of the next phase of my life.
Absolutely. And now your father was a pastor, correct? So was going off to college something you were really excited for? Were you nervous?
So I definitely was excited to have a little bit of freedom, because I was a very good girl. I was not a typical pastor's daughter growing up.
You weren't wild and crazy?
I wasn't until college. So I definitely lived and learned through those years. And so it was definitely finding a new identity outside of living under my parents' roof through college.
Right, right. And at some point, your dad gets pretty sick.
Yeah. So um he got better and then he got sick. He battled for 7 years. And so the Lord opened up an opportunity for him to move his pastoralship to Texas, where he's originally from and his parents lived, and that's where he was getting his treatments. So they moved back to Texas, and then he just got really sick after being there for such a short time. His cancer just kind of rapidly spread. So I was flying back and forth as much as I could, and he passed away April 9th, 11 years ago. And it was life-changing for all of us. It was just kind of like, okay, that was like the whole foundation of our family had just like crumbled. And 3 days after he passed away, my first nephew was born. So I decided that I was going to take some time off of school. My brother and his wife graciously allowed me to live with them and help nanny for them, um, and just use that time to heal. And it was awesome. I loved it. But
Right.
so many people influenced me of, are you going to finish your degree? You're going to go back to school. And my mom also was like in limbo. She also didn't know what to do.
Sure.
And she stayed in Texas. And so it was just kind of like, well, I guess I'll go back to school. So after a year off, I moved back to Auburn and I was going to finish my degree. I had changed my major 7 times because I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life.
Hmm.
Um, and I was studying human development and family studies, which I loved so much because I love kids, I love babies.
Yes.
I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, but I knew I could do something that I loved with that. Um,
Absolutely. That was my major too. And I tell you, as mothers, I feel like we use that major
a
quite
hundred
often,
percent, totally.
especially the child development part. It really comes in handy with the
Uh-huh.
children.
It does. It does. I reference things I learned to my husband all the time. I'm like, I have a degree. Oh, well, not a degree. I didn't graduate, but lots of hours of studying.
Lots of hours. Oh my goodness. So at some point, a guy enters the picture. Take me to that chapter of life.
Yes. So I was working, I was going to school, and I had, just my mom and she wasn't working. So I was trying to lighten the load of not having to use her money for groceries and gas and things like that, and like my bills. So I was working at a restaurant and I met a bunch of wonderful people there, but got really close with this one guy, and hanging out. And I honestly was going through such like a numbness of
Mhm.
grief, um, and just going through the motions of life. Um, so everyone is telling me I need to graduate to get a good job and like to move on with my life. And so I was just doing things that people told me I should do. Um, and so in that numbness and working at a restaurant, it creates a culture of going out and partying and drinking after work. And so it was off and on hanging out, nothing ever serious or dating. Um, and so I just, I wanted more from him, but he never committed
Mhm.
to that. And so I had kind of taken a little break and it was the end of the fall semester. I was like, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it's just really hard. Most of my friends had already graduated and moved on. I was living by myself. And so it was just like I knew I was heading towards a path of destruction.
Sure.
Uh, and she was like, You already took out your student loan, you signed a lease, like you can tough it out 6 more months or
Mm.
however long to finish out your school year. And I'm like, golly. So literally Christmas break ends and like a month into the semester, I found myself with a unplanned and unexpected pregnancy.
Shocker that we're covering that on this episode.
I know. You like those keywords?
Oh, truly. So take me to that moment. I mean, I feel like it's two things at the same time. It's a moment we'll never forget, but a moment that is still really fuzzy and feels like a whirlwind. Do you remember feeling like you needed to take a pregnancy test and that you could actually be pregnant?
Yeah, I remember. I just like knew it in my gut and in my
Mm,
heart, before I ever took the test. I was like,
mm,
I am, I'm pregnant. I know it. So I took the test and I immediately called the father and I told him, and he was like, all right, cool, like we'll handle it. Um, and it was just kind of like, like it's still early stages. I'd
right,
always wanted to be a mom. Like
right.
there was no doubt in my mind that like this was a baby that could be loved and cherished and grow into a beautiful human one day. So it was just like, okay, like this is what it is, and we're gonna do the best we can with this situation. Um, and so it was. I went to the women's clinic, which is where I officially met you.
Yes.
in Auburn. And, you guys led us on the next steps paths and kind of helped us with, making sure my health and taking my prenatals and all these things that you don't really know and hadn't told any family yet.
Right.
Um, so that was, it was just like get the ball rolling and you keep going.
Right. And at
And
what
then,
point do you tell your mom?
so it was, um, in the beginning of March, my grandfather passed away, my dad's dad. And
Okay.
so it was like the first time all of us had been together again. I flew out to Texas for the funeral, and it was just my mom and I in the hotel room. And I'm like, Mom, I need to tell you something. And she sat down next to me and she's like, okay, tell me. I can tell me whatever you want. And I was like, well, you're going to be a grandma again. And she just was not expecting that.
Mm,
Um, and immediately just kind of went like white in color and was like, how could you do this? And she just picked up her things and left. And I was like, okay, that went really well.
oh man, just left the hotel room.
Yeah. And I had no clue where she went. Um, so I gave it some time to see if she'd come back. I tried calling her, like her phone was off. She was like, I'm not dealing with this. And so I walked over to my siblings that were in a different room, and they were like, I asked them if they knew where mom was. They're like, no, what's going on? And so then I told them that I was pregnant, and it was my oldest brother kind of mimicked my mom and just like, how are you so stupid to like this, let this happen?
Mm.
And then my other siblings, the middles, I'm the end. They were more gracious and just like, it's okay, it'll be okay, it's fine.
Right.
Um, and so, come to find out, my mom called my oldest brother, and she had checked herself into the emergency room because she was having a panic attack.
Wow. And
Um,
that's a lot on you to also have to shoulder. I mean,
oh yeah, I was like, cool, I'm letting everyone down.
gosh. I mean, I can't imagine having that profound of an impact, on the family and that having their reaction be that knee-jerk reaction. And I will say things have calmed down as they always do,
Mhm.
they tend to work themselves out. But when people don't fully understand a situation or it's scary, our knee jerk reactions can be quite harsh and overwhelming.
Mhm. Yeah, and it was just from there. My mom didn't talk to me directly for a couple of months.
Wow.
So she would communicate through my siblings who would check in on me. And, it's just like I was so hyper focused on, like, let me just get to the end of the semester. Let me make it through. I was so, so sick on top of all of this. I lost like 28 pounds, I
Oh
think.
my goodness.
So I'd be like going to class, let me cut in the bathroom, puke a little, and just keep on going. It was hard. Emotionally, physically, mentally. I was just like so drained carrying everything with me. And like ultimately, I'm like, I just want someone to like along beside me and encourage me and lift me up that like you can do this.
Right. Right.
Um, so school ended. My mom came to visit me finally, and she was a teacher. So she pulls out a pen and paper, and we write down a couple of lists of pros and cons of single parenting, marrying the father, or adoption. And the father, he was supportive, but like he was not someone I wanted to be married to and raise a family with. And I don't think he felt that way towards me either.
Okay.
I think in the whole time that we knew each other, we hadn't even gone on a real date.
Wow.
Um, so she um, she like told me, she's like, I know you're born to be a mom. You've always helped with kids and loved kids. She's like, but I believe this is not the time for you. And so that was what put the bug of adoption in my ear, because I asked all my friends and all my siblings, just like, I can do this. And
Right.
then when you think about it, like, the father wanted to be in the picture, and I didn't know where I would live, and I didn't want
Right.
her to have all these, like two different families in life. So I started really considering what adoption looked like,
Okay.
or single parenthood. And he did not want to sign his rights over. So I was like,
Wow.
I don't want you to be a part of my life for the rest of my life.
It's a huge commitment. Absolutely.
Yeah. And have to
Absolutely.
co-parent with him.
Right.
Um, and so a good family friend, introduced a place called Hannah's Home to my mom,
Okay.
and it's in Tequesta, Florida. And so we road tripped down. It's near where my brother lives, so we made a little trip out of it to see my nephew. Um, and I wasn't their typical person that they would accept into the program. A lot of them are like high school or never finished high school type of situations.
Okay.
So they accepted me into the program, and so this was July by this point. So I'm 6 months pregnant.
6 months
Um,
pregnant. And who knows other than your mom and family and the father of the baby at this point?
uh, like my two closest friends, and that's it.
Wow. Was there a reason for keeping it so close to the heart at this point?
So mostly my whole life had done what I was told, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And it just, I changed my major 7 times. It wasn't really working in my favor. And it was just so important to me that I made the right decision, that I didn't want influence of a lot of opinions,
Hmm.
and people's perspective of the situation.
Sure.
That I just was like, I mean, shame had to do with it for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but most importantly, it was just like, I don't want the noise. I want to
Hmm.
make the best decision that's in front of me. And this whole entire time, I'm still like in the back of my mind, like, this is my baby. I can raise this baby. I can do it. But I'm still looking into what the situation of adoption could be.
Makes
Um,
complete sense.
yeah. So I
So
moved
they
in, and
they
oh, go
accepted
ahead.
you at Hannah's home?
They did. So
Okay.
I went back to Auburn, and my brother flew in from Colorado, and helped me pack up my stuff and put it into a storage unit. And I packed, one, two suitcases, and headed back down to Florida to move in. And through them, they also really helped me. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? So, like, a lot of girls want to finish college or their GED. And, like, for me, I was like, I just want to look into adoption. And so they hooked me up with an adoption attorney who had clients. And I just would flip through these little books. Like, they're like Shutterfly books, that these
Wow.
families would make to present themselves.
Okay.
And I went through, I don't know how many, and I just was like, "Hmm,
None of
none of these
them
people feel good
sat.
enough."
Wow. Yes. No, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah. And so through, by this time, my mom and I's relationship was restored, and we were back on really good grounds. And I was really growing, as a person on my own and in my faith. And I just kind of got to the point of desperation of, I don't know what to do. I don't know what is the best thing for me, for this child, for both of our futures. Um, and I just really like got on my face and cried out, um, of just like, I'm letting go of the reins, just like, the right thing is going to come to me. And like, literally within days, the adoption attorney was like, I have a family for you. And I was like, oh gosh. So I was really nervous when she presented it that way, but she was just so excited because it was everything that I told her I was looking for. So
Wow.
she like was happy that she found someone that might be good enough.
Fit some of the criteria. And how close were you to having this baby at this point?
Um, I had probably been there, gosh, I was like 7.5, 8 months pregnant.
Wow. Wow. So
So
you're
pretty
getting
far
down,
along.
yeah, to the wire at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
So I they had another birth mom promise their child to them, and that fell through. She changed her mind after the baby was born.
Okay.
So they were a little nervous about the situation. I was a little nervous about the situation because, like, this
Sure.
is my baby.
Right.
So they made like a slideshow online because they put it together for me specifically. Um, and just like as I was looking at their pictures, they felt familiar to me. I felt like I
Mm,
knew them, and they just had like this feeling that it felt like my family. Like they would raise her like my parents raised me, and like most importantly, she would have a loving mother and father under the same roof, which is what was so important to me for her to have if it wasn't going to be me.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. So at what point do you get to meet them or FaceTime or what does that look like?
yeah, so I told the adoption attorney, I was like, okay, I really like them. I think I want to meet them. So,
Okay.
like, within a week, they were down here. Um, we went to a lunch together and just chatting, getting to know one another to make sure that it's a right fit. And they had three of their own children. Um, and the mom looks at me and she's like, I just always wanted one more baby to complete our family.
Mm,
And my mom always would tell me, because I'm fourth born in
right.
my family, and she would say, "You just completed our little family," and I knew in my heart. And so when she said that, I got chills all over me, and I was
You
like,
knew.
yeah, like it was just that little soft whisper of like, this is it, this is what's right. Um, so from there, it's just kind of like we lifted off the ground and started like flying because, the countdown's on till this baby's going to get here.
Absolutely. And was this going to be an open, closed, semi-open adoption? What had y'all agreed to?
So the adoption attorney agreed that closed wasn't appropriate since we had gotten to be so close. But neither one of us wanted it to be fully open because it just kind of it protected me and it protected them. So it's semi open. We're able
Okay.
to contact one another through the adoption attorney.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so that way, it's not totally closed off. If one or the other wants information, we can access that.
Makes sense. So as you're continuing your pregnancy, do you keep them informed on what's going on with your baby or what does communication look like towards, the end of this pregnancy?
So gosh, it's like I'm probably like 32, 34 weeks along, and they the mom and her two daughters, they come down. We did a maternity shoot together.
Oh, how sweet.
Um, that just was like someone that worked at Hannah's home offered to take our pictures. And I was like, I just would really love them to be a part of it so that she can see how loved she is by both of her mothers, and that it's not it's not me giving this baby up. Like I thought through this hard, and that she matters to me. So we did that. That was wonderful. And then kind of as I hit that last month, um, I would send updates when I went to the doctor to the attorney, and she would call them. Um, and little girl was really comfortable. So her due date came and she did not.
She wasn't leaving. She needed an eviction notice.
She did. So I, um, my mom and my two siblings that did not live here all came to town.
Okay.
Um, Everyone was really excited to be a part of her life while we had the opportunity. And the adoptive parents came to town, and we were all just kind of waiting. And so I think 5 days past my due date had kind of
Oh,
come, and I went in for another checkup. And I was like, look, my birthday is tomorrow. And she's like, okay, we're going in for an induction,
wow.
and scheduled the induction for my birthday. But I got to go spend some time with my mom before I went to go in for my induction,
Okay.
um, and like my family. And so they came and picked me up and allowed me to go spend time with my family. And my mom um, kind of sat me down and was like, I have something to share with you. And I'm like, okay.
Mm,
And she said, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer,
mm,
and it's not looking good.
mm,
And I just had this like moment of, this is why I've gone through this, was so that I could heal as much as I could from losing my dad.
mm.
And not, I was given an opportunity so I didn't have to choose between a new baby and helping my mom and caring for my mom. Um, so it just was like that final assurance of like, this is like, I put my trust in God, and He made all the pieces fall in exactly where they needed to go. Um, and so it was just I kind of like, it was like me tying up my shoes right before you're about to go for a run. Like it was just that kind of final, like, all right, let's do this. Let's get it done. We have things we got to work on.
Wow.
Um, and so I went into the hospital. My sister came with me, and stayed the night with me. And then the next morning, everyone else kind of came and hung out. The adoptive parents were there spending time with my siblings and my mom. Um, and I got a little annoyed, so I kicked everyone out.
I don't blame you. I don't blame
And
you.
and I was like, all right, let's get this baby out. Like I'm tired of like, when you're like 41 weeks pregnant and some days, you're real uncomfortable.
Yes. And you'd been sick this entire pregnancy, plus all of the stress, so many things in your life changing. I can't imagine you're like, let's get the show on the road at this point.
Yes. So she was born with the help of the adoptive mom and my sister-in-law
Wow.
on my birthday.
Wow.
So it was pretty standard, nothing crazy, a great delivery
Okay.
overall. And
And
I had an
go
awesome
ahead.
OB who was very supportive of
Oh,
my whole journey, which I would say, like, if you have a doctor that is like that, it changes everything. And like feeling
absolutely.
the support in every area of life, because it takes everything out of you to make this choice and make this decision.
I can only imagine. So, what is her name? Is it something that you got to pick, or does the adoptive family pick?
So we chose a name together.
Okay.
All of their children have like nature-ish, earthy
Yeah.
themes.
Okay.
So they chose Sky,
Mm.
and I chose her middle name of Magnolia as a little shout out to Auburn University and her Southern roots.
Yes.
So she they loved it and kept it. And the best part about it is they all have M initialed middle names, and I didn't
Oh,
know that when I picked it.
of
Another
course,
little like
another
check off the list.
piece that's coming together. So, having to stay in the hospital, can you walk our listeners through what does that look like? Because you mentioned the adoptive parents are in the hospital with you. How much time takes place before, you leave? Does the baby go with them or stay with you? What does this look like in the hospital?
So she is mine legally until I am discharged from the hospital and have to go through the legal um, process of signing my rights over.
Okay.
So 2 days is typical for an easy natural birth. Um, so I was given a lot of space from the adoptive parents after she was first born in that first night. Like they came in the next morning, brought me breakfast, stayed for just a little bit, and then they were like, we're going to leave you some time with your family and let you spend time with her," which was really a gift because I had not asked for that.
Mm,
Um, and so my family was able to come in and spend time with her, loving on her and just snuggling her. I had some great alone time. A lot of tears were cried. Um, and just no doubt in my decision, but just like that feeling of like peace that surpassed all understanding of just like I love you, but like you're not mine to keep. And I just knew that in my heart. And when they came in for the attorney and they had a um, stenographer and I had my mom and another witness. And so they ask you a bunch of questions like that you're in your right mind, that you know what you're doing, giving up your rights as a parent. And the attorney was like, "Why are you doing this?" And the only thing that came to my mind, I just like looked down, I'm holding my sweet daughter. I was like, it's because I love her that I'm choosing this. I could not give her the life she deserved and the life that I wanted her to have. And it was just, she was more important than me.
That kind of selfless love, I mean, it's unimaginable, uncomprehendable, and just I can't imagine in that moment how that felt inside to know that you are making such a sacrificial decision that would impact her positively for the rest of her life, and that you were at peace, at so much peace with that. That's the part that brings a smile to my face, honestly.
Yeah. It just honestly, and still to this day, it's just like that piece of just knowing like that her life was ordained, as she was being made inside my womb before she was even conceived. Like she had this life planned out for her. And I just was, I had to obey and like just do what I was called to do is really how I feel about it.
Do you remember, the final moments of having to hand her over and having to kind of give a piece of you to another family?
It, I mean, it was hard. I put on my brave face, um, and I had such a great relationship with the adoptive parents that I was like, I love y'all. You are part of my family now. And, I'm always here. And like, thank you.
Mm,
Thank you for wanting my child and to love her and raise her as your own. Because that also is such a sacrifice on the other end of just, you know, she's not their blood,
right.
but they love her just as much as their other children that are.
That's right. That's right. And you and the adoptive mom have a special bond and something in common. Will you walk our listeners through what the two of you have in common now?
Yes. So it was about a year after she was born. They came down for a visit. Um, and I have a tattoo on my left wrist. It's three little arrow heads. And for those watching, um, and she got the same exact tattoo
Wow.
because I told her why I got it, and she just loved it so much. It had to do with my dad and some things that I was raised on, and she wanted Sky to have both of her mommies have something that was the same because she was, she's blonde hair, blue eyes, much taller than I am. We don't look alike. I think we have a lot in common in our heart, but it was just really neat that she surprised me and she was like, I just wanted it. I loved it so much and what it meant to you. And, I want to have that a part of my life in Skies as well, which was so cool.
Wow, that is so sweet and something you can both hold on to forever. And what about your mom? How did everything, that prognosis kind of play out?
So she ended up stage 4 breast cancer.
Okay.
She did really well with her treatment in the first year. And then it came back more aggressive and in more places. So she battled about 2 years and then she lost her battle and passed away.
I'm sorry.
Um, this November will be 7 years since she's been gone. Um, so it was a really special time because I lived with her. It was just us two. We were roomies again. And it just was a really great time of just spending a lot of time together. And during that time, I met my now husband,
Mm,
and a lot of our dates were just at home, including my mom. Our first
wow.
time stay together, he got a pizza and brought it over for both of us. So it was just really a special time that I couldn't have done with a new baby. Um, and it's hard not having my mom and dad, but I mean, just if you have ever watched someone have cancer, it's really hard, especially when it's so aggressive. That just like as much as I want them here, I'm glad that they're not battling that anymore.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
it's awful. It's hard.
Absolutely. And there was something that our listeners also need to hear about that after your mom had passed. I mean, it's just one thing after another, Kelsey, where you have these nuggets in your story where all of the pieces, it's like your life is a puzzle. And the more you share, it's like there's yet another piece. There's another piece that, we couldn't see before, but now stepping back, it's like this puzzle is all starting to make sense. And there's this one piece that I was totally mind blown when I heard about. Will you share with our listeners what you found after your mother had passed away?
Yeah. So we unfortunately had a sticky situation of getting out of the house because it was a rental. And so it was just kind of like mad chaos of packing things up. But I found a journal that my mom had written in. And so I was just kind of flipping through to like see if it was something worth keeping. Like, is it relevant or like have any fun stories? And I found um, a journal entry from the day that Sky was born. Um, and just like in the first couple of sentences, she's just was talking about how proud she was of me and that I was her hero for what I had chosen to do. And like to hear those words after she was gone that she'd never verbally said to me. I mean, she'd always said, I'm proud of you and I love you, but like to know like she thought of me as her hero, like
Mm,
her youngest daughter, like, whoa, mind blown.
mm. And something to just cherish forever,
Oh
honestly.
yeah.
Such a beautiful thing. So, Kelsey, if you had to go back in time and talk to your young self as you find out that you're about to have an unplanned pregnancy, knowing the whole journey you've been through and the resiliency that you've shown, what would you tell your younger self immediately after finding out that you're pregnant?
I think the first thing I would say is that you're strong and
Mm,
you are smart.
mm,
Um, that you can do anything that you set your mind to. Um, and there's nothing greater than the power of love,
mhm,
honestly.
mhm. Such a
I think
beautiful answer.
that's a little tidbit I'd tell myself.
I love it. I mean, your bravery and your strength is truly inspiring, not only to me, but I know it is going to be so inspiring to all of our listeners because your ability to navigate through all of these challenges that you faced, obstacle after obstacle, and you doing it with such grace and courage is honestly remarkable. And I thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your heart and sharing some of the sweetest moments that you have with our listeners and with me today.
Of course, I'm so happy. I haven't told my story publicly much yet, so I really hope that someone
Mm.
hears it who needs to hear it and be encouraged by it.
Thank you so much, Kelsey, for sharing your heart. And to all of our listeners, in an upcoming episode of Behind the Blue Line, we'll be diving into the world of adoption with an expert in the field. We're thrilled to have the opportunity to break down all things adoption and explore the intricacies of this profound and life-changing process. So, whether you're considering adoption, have questions about the process, or simply want to learn more about the topic, we invite you to be a part of the conversation. If you have any questions you'd like answered during the episode, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can comment below, send us a direct message on social media, or email us at podcast@unplannedanduntold.com. And that's unplanned and AND untold.com. Thank you so much, and we hope to have you back for our next episode. Bye-bye. We hope you enjoyed that episode, as we are committed to bringing you the real, raw stories of those who have defied the odds and achieved their goals. But we're not stopping there. We are dedicated to improving our podcast quality so that we can reach an even wider audience. If you believe in the power of these untold narratives, consider donating or sponsoring this podcast by visiting unplannedanduntold.com.